So here's a trick I've seen wholesalers use to make a flip property, or maybe a few tricks they use to seem better than they are. And not all wholesalers do this, but some of them do. So if you're new and you're looking at buying flips, and just something to keep an eye out for, right? So this is really why it's important to know your numbers and know how to evaluate a house's value, right? So usually, typically, this is going to sound like I'm bashing wholesalers, but I'm not. I'm just making a video to help people understand that some wholesalers do this, right? So most wholesalers, some, I would say probably 70 to 80%, maybe higher. They always show you the best case ARV, right? And the best case repair numbers to make the asking price look good enough and still have enough profit margin in there, right? So why did I do that? Well, not that they're bad people, right? They don't do it out of that, but maybe they spent a bunch of money on marketing. This is the only lead they got, and they weren't able to get the house cheap enough to make the numbers work, right? So they're still trying to throw it out there because someone may buy it, right? So what do I mean by best case ARV? Best case ARV is all the houses in the neighborhood are selling for like 200, and they're like, if you put really nice kitchen, really nice bathroom, refinish it really nice, maybe you can get 250 or 220. Best case, right? You should never run your numbers like that. You should always run your numbers in worst case, always, right? And that goes for ARV and repairs, right? A lot of these wholesalers have never done a flip, so they don't even know what the repair numbers are. It's just a rough guess, right? If you see anyone trying to sell you a house for like, I don't know, 50K, that's valued at 200K with like 0 to 5 grand in repairs, it's probably not a deal, right? Because here's why, right? If it was a deal, I don't care who you are, you would figure out a way to buy that house for 50K, put 5 grand into it, and sell it for 200, right? You would, I don't know, go around with a metal detector finding quarters in the sand, literally, to make that work, right? Because that's like a crazy profit. But anyway, right, just kind of keep that in mind. So just make sure you know your numbers, and sometimes wholesalers send me stuff and it doesn't work for me, and I'm just like, hey man, sorry, that doesn't work for me. No big deal. But I always like seeing all the deals because you never know when they will work, right? Another example of what may happen is, let's say that you're in a neighborhood filled with 1,000 square foot houses, right? And they're all selling for $150K. Okay, so that's $150 a square foot, okay? But let's say this wholesaler brings you this, like out of the whole neighborhood, just a neighborhood of hundreds of houses, you have one that's like 200 square feet. Okay, so it's double the size of all the other ones, right? Maybe it was someone that was living there and they're like, you know what? I'm gonna build me a badass house. So everyone around me is like, wow, right? Or whatever the case may be, right? So what most people do when they figure out the value of a house is they're like, oh, everything sells for 150. That's 1,000 square feet. So that means 150 per square foot. Perfect. So I'm gonna take my 200, I can't talk today, my 2,000 square foot house that I'm gonna wholesale and throw that 150 per square foot thing. And now this house is gonna be worth 300K. Well, that will never happen, right? And why might that be? When a bank, appraiser, anyone's gonna appraise it, if your oddball house is, and let's say all the houses in like that whole area are just 150K houses, right? A bank's not gonna lend you 300K or whatever percentage of that 300K on a 2,000 square foot house in that area, right? And at the same time, who's gonna buy a 300,000 square foot or a $300,000 house in $150,000 neighborhood, right? They would just go to the one or two neighborhoods over, and maybe the house is smaller, but they're in a way nicer neighborhood, way nicer schools, way nicer everything, right? So just keep that in mind. That's also something that I've seen very, very common when I'm getting deals thrown my way, is just oddball house. And I also try to stay away from the oddball house, right? If there's an oddball house that is like that, most of the time it's not worth doing, because first of all, you got double the house to refinish and fix, double the probable problems you might run into, and right, it's hard to comp it. The appraiser is going to have a hard time, and I don't think it'll ever be worth, right, quite that much. And that's drastic, right? A lot of times you don't find houses that are like that big of a deviation, mostly in the smaller homes, in like the first time home buyer neighborhoods. They'll all be like anywhere from like 800 to like, I don't know, 1,500 square foot, right? And you can usually figure it out from there, right, with a little addition or whatever. But anyway, so those are kind of just some of the things to keep in mind, is just watch out for those best case scenarios on the ARVs and on the repair numbers. And because it's never a best case scenario, at least with the repairs, right? It's always worst case. You always find surprises. You always find, right, if you do a flip and you don't find something weird, it's just weird. Something weird is going to happen, right? There's always something weird. Always. So yeah, and then just kind of watch out how they're coming up with their ARV, right? They're both ARV kind of things to watch out for. So make sure you know your after repair value, and then run your numbers after that, your commissions, your rehab, your profit, and that's, what you can pay for a house. So hope this video helped, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Take it easy.